Hello and welcome again to the Work for Impact Academy. In this course, we're going to learn in this unit, we're going to learn an introduction to the query language. I'm not going to tell you everything about the query language, but I'm going to tell you some stuff which is very important in order to use it for our business. So instead of listening to me and checking my face here, what you're going to see is a presentation with an introduction to the main theory that you need to have in order to use a SQL language successfully for your business. So get comfy, go in your coach, check this presentation, and I hope you like it. See you. Okay, so here you got the PowerPoint which I was promising to you. It's going to give us an introduction to the structured query language or SQL. What is SQL? What we need to know is that it's a structured query language abbreviated as SQL. Both ways of pronouncing are correctly in the company world. It's a specific language used in programming and designed for managing data held in a relational database management system. Even it's used in programming, this is not a programming language. A programming language would be Python or JavaScript. This is a language which is used often in programming because it's like compatible. It is mostly designed for managing data, so we're going to use these queries. Since it's a query language, we're going to use these queries to manage the data and use it for our own benefit. It's important to notice that it is structured. What it means is that it's going to be organized in tables with rows. It's going to have the same structure all the time, and this is what allows us to make relations between different tables which have different structures. For instance, I can make queries where I can select all the orders from a customer, and I have these two different tables, the customers and the orders. And the relation between them is what makes us able to query through the data. There are other databases which don't have structured data in tables and rows, like the document databases such as MongoDB or Firebase. They are also fine, but SQL gives us a standard that is very commonly used since a long time ago. And you will see now why it's so helpful. We need to know some important theory terms in order to understand how the structured query language works. The first one we already said is the relational databases, the relations between the tables and in the databases, in the database, I mean. And these relations between the tables can be of three types mostly. It is either one-to-one, one-to-many, or many-to-many. What this means is that from one table, I can have maybe a relationship between one instance of a customer, which only has one instance of a password or one instance of a username. This is a one-to-one relationship, like one instance of a table has only one instance of another table. Whereas the one-to-many would be like if I have one company which has many customers. So then the relationship between the company and the customers would be a one-to-many. And there would be like two different tables, one for the company, another for the customers. The many-to-many relationship would be if you want to think, for instance, in many companies or many customers that buy their products at many companies at the same time. That would be a many-to-many relationship. As we said before, the data in the relational databases is structured. It's always the same structure in tables and rows. But before you start using data, what you need to do is to model it. You need to say to the database, hey, the customer name is going to be a text, or the order price is going to be a number, or the profile picture is going to be an image. So in order to make the database understand what kind of data we're going to use, so we need to model the tables and tell the database that, hey, this is going to be a text, this is going to be a number. Once we know what kind of data we're going to have in the database, what models we're going to have, it's time to start using uh, data, or filling the database with data. And what we're doing there is to create tables, as we said, one for customers, one for orders, and every row or every instance it is a table is every customer or every order. So instance, entity, and row are three kind of concepts that are very related to each other. When I create an instance of a customer, what I'm doing is create a row in a table. And this at the same time is just an entity. As I said, this is mainly theory, but it can be useful to understand better how the database with the SQL is working. Okay, so when I have modeled my data, I have told the database what structure is going to be in each table. I have created instances with real data for the tables. What I need to do is to manage the data. I want to actually do something with the data so that it can show for the benefit of my business. How do we do this? Excuse me. I do it with queries. Queries, as we said, is SQL is structured query language. It means that we're going to use some commands which are standard, which are made by keywords, English keywords. And we're going to use these commands in order to tell the database what kind of data, what do we want to have, what do we want to do with the data, if we want to update it, if we want to delete it, we just want to select it. And these queries can be very specific. We can make them very specific. But in order to understand, or in order to use these queries, we need special syntax. Since structured query language is a language, it's made with special syntax. So we cannot just invent queries. We can make very specific queries, but we cannot go beyond the syntax of the language, because it's just like that. It's like the rules, the syntactical rules of the language that we need to get acquainted with. Okay, so when I know what SQL is, why should I use it? Why should it be better than any other instrument that we can find in the internet? Well, the first thing is because it's easy to understand. It's English keywords that we're going to use, and very, very like basic language, such as select or insert or update. So if you know just some English, it will be a user-friendly language for you. So you don't need to know like very complicated things. The second point is that if you have a good engine, it will be efficient at processing your queries very fast. You will see when we start working with it that you get results in milliseconds. So it's astonishing, I would say, like amazing how quick it can go. And last but not least, there's also this point that there's a standard documentation to users in the internet. So since it's been in the internet so long time and it's been in use so long time, so it's very, very easy to find help for how you want to query your data. But we don't want to use the data just like without any purpose. We want to use it in order to analyze our business and see how it can help us to change different lines of action in case something is going wrong, or in the other way, just to say I'm doing good. Why I'm doing good in my business too. So SQL is going to help us to perform statistical analysis, which is going to tell us, hey, We are doing good here, we are doing bad here. This could be better, this could be worse. So the how are we doing is the statistical analysis that with the help of SQL we can achieve. The second point is the diagnostic analysis. With SQL we can see, okay, I have a problem somewhere in my business. I can check it. So I can go through the data, query through the data, and then see where is the problem underlying. Uh, And this, in its turn, is going to help us to make predictive analysis like, okay, what's going to happen? Because if I'm always having this kind of problem with this kind of customer, probably I'm going to have the same problem in the future. So maybe I can make predictions about this customer, or I can make predictions about the revenue, or I can make predictions about the invoicing. So this is the predictive analysis that SQL is going to help us to do. And last but not least, we have prescriptive analysis, which means, okay, now when I know what is good, what is bad, when I can make predictions, maybe I have to take some line of actions. So the analysis is going to tell me do this or this, invoice more to this per person, or uh, launch this product a bit more, give it a campaign, for instance. Okay, so when we have said, okay, I'm going to use the SQL, I'm going to try to make predictions and check the data as much as possible for my business. But how can I do this? How can I achieve any kind of analysis of the data? Well, you can do this with the help of queries, and queries basically correspond to four main actions for your database. One would be to create something in your database, another is to read something in your database, another is to update your database, and another is to delete your database. Uh, when I create, what I'm doing is to insert an instance of a customer, for instance, in the customers table, or an order in the orders table. I'm just creating a post, creating a row in the table. When I'm selecting the data, I'm just checking, okay, I want to customize. I don't want to see all the data at once with all the customers. I want to check just some of the data where some conditions are met, because that's the analysis that's going to help me most. So I can do either selecting data from one table or some more tables at the same time. So this is very useful for the analysis. But I can also be willing to update the database. Maybe I want to put that some products have been delivered in an order, or change the data so that it's more fresh and actual. So that would I do with update without the need to delete a post or a row or a invoice or a customer. The only thing I need to check is the field or the column that I want to delete to update, and then just update it. And the last, of course, is to delete if we have all the data that we are not going to use anymore, and we want to be compliant with GDPR and the data protection rule. Then I can achieve this with just deleting like the customers or the orders that are too old. As I said before, we need to have a syntax, or better said, we need to be compliant with the syntax of the SQL language. So we need to know, and we need to understand, and we need to learn how to use these keywords, because you cannot write them just in the way you want. It's not directly like writing a sentence in English. You need, it's a, yeah, you will see it's a bit specific. But it's good to know this kind of keywords, such as distinct. This is very useful. It's going to give us unique values if we want to just see, don't repeat customer when we're checking invoices. Or the where, which is going to say, make my query more specific according to the data delivered, to the products delivered, or to the date of the order. Like and between, and an or and an or are going to be also very helpful, so that we say, okay, I don't want to get the invoices for this customer only when he has paid. I also want to check it when it's been delivered, the product. I can order the data, I can sort it, because the where and an or is more like filtering the data, right? Order by is going to help us to sort it. So if I want to sort data by from earlier order to the latest order, I can use the order by, and I will get the data ordered or sorted according to the to the date of delivery, for instance. Limit and case limit is going to give us the maximum specified number of rows that we want. If we just want to check 10 rows at a time, we just limit 10, and then we will see like 10 rows of a customer, 10 rows of an invoice. So this is basically it right now. A little bit of theory for you. The important is that now you go through the next steps, which is to read the reference literature, which I have put in the channel. You will need to download a program called DB Browser, which is a user interface just for being able to visualize the data and check and write some queries so that we can customize how we manage the data. And you will have a couple of files which you can open in DB Browser. One is orders.data.db and the other is select.db. The orders.db is the database itself with all the data that we're going to use for queries. And the select.db is just a query file with select queries for these queries that we are going to use for reading the data in the database. So good luck in downloading and good luck in reading the literature. You're going to have also a little test in the channel, which is just some quick questions that you have to answer about this presentation. So I hope you like this. I hope it was not too much theory. For any questions, just write in the channel to me, and I'll see you in the next